You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unlock Your Life. I'm your host, Jennings Smith, and guys, I have a really special guest on today. I'm excited to talk to him. I know you're going to want to hear what he has to say. Cody Bjugan is a real estate investor, but he's focusing on the land, right? So this guy is taking raw land and he is entitling it. He's going through the governmental processes to get it approved for a highest and best use. And then he's able to develop that land or sell it off to somebody and generate large paydays. He's the founder of VestRight, and he also has a mission of purpose, impact, and fulfillment and helping people to change their lives, which I feel like blends right in with Unlock Your Life. So let's get right into it and talk with Cody. Cody, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I look forward to hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking offline before the show, and you're based in Arizona, but can you tell me a little bit about your background, your track record? How did you stumble into this, and what have you done to get to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So background, well, I'll just tell you, I had plans to go off to college and do the college thing, and instead, the Lord had a different plan of me getting my high school girlfriend pregnant, so I got married right out of high school, had my son a month after that. I had to go into the flooring union, right? And I did that just so that after 3 months, I could qualify for health insurance so that I could pay for my baby that was on the way. I ended up in the trades, right? Doing floors and counters, and I ended up leaving the union right after my son was born, but went into another business. And the other day I was in the trades, right? So, and I was getting to know, I kind of did some pretty cool things in that industry. And so a lot of the local land developers, home builders, all those guys, they kind of became buddies of mine. And I had reached a point in the trades where I either needed to open my own store or I needed to go do something different because I was playing at a pretty high level that I could working for someone else. So one thing led to another. I had the privilege of, or the advantage of only being, 24 when I decided to go self-employed. And, I didn't have the same life experiences or potential fear back then that you might have at 44 today. Mm-hmm. And so I jumped right in it, man. I went into real estate, and that was in 2002. So here we are 21 years later, and been through lots of interesting times, the Great Recession being one of them.
Amen.
And, just continue to learn and grow and make lots of mistakes, fail a lot, but pick myself back up. And, where I'm at today, as you mentioned, I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, but my headquarters is in Dallas, Texas. So that's where my executive team and all of our whole staff and my business has scaled tremendously in the last few years. And you could attribute that mainly to, in 2020, I figured out the biggest problem with my company was me. And that was that I was holding the company back, sitting in an executive seat. And so I made the choice to kind of get out of the way. Today I'm on the board, and the business had so much opportunity. I just didn't have the skill set nor the experience to really know how to scale it, right? Mm-hmm. So now we're scaling, and now we're doing deals all over the nation. Last we heard, my team was working on deals in like 13 states, 23 markets. And so now I can bring all my industry experience to my company. I'm a dirt guy, man. I'm a dirt guy. I know dirt. And so I'm just able to just really serve a specific role at the company, and just super excited that, or thankful that I was humbled enough a few years ago to be able to get out of the way of my own company, So that's where we're at today.
Yeah, that's huge. And a lot of times the guy that starts it isn't always the best guy to scale it and to take it to the next level. I'm uncovering that, as we've grown, taking on an asset manager to help me manage my portfolio, because I'm just like, hey, I'm good at raising capital. I'm good at finding deals. I'm pretty good at underwriting and getting into good deals. But that, after we refinanced it and stabilized it, keeping your eye on the ball, right? Are the rents at the max they can be? Are we trimming expenses? Are we watching those budgets? Are we getting our taxes filed? Are we doing all this stuff that has to be done?
Yeah.
And so, I hired a team to come in there and help me streamline my portfolio, and it's night and day. So I hear you on that one.
That's cool, man. Good job doing that.
Cody, take me through your first deal. People like to hear, like, they don't want to hear, we're flipping this $10 million deal or whatever. Like, what was the first piece of land that you bought? Was it a success, or how did that go?
Yeah. So that was a long time ago. I was trying to remember because I get asked about my first deal often. And I think this was my first deal. I just happened to luck out on my first deal. Like, it's a piece that back then, we didn't have the technology that we do today. So, we'd drive a lot of times for dollars, like looking for pieces, and happened just a piece right down the street from where I lived, was able to build a relationship, and we put the deal together. And I had a partner for the first couple of years, and he was a real estate agent. But anyways, we ended up putting the deal together. We didn't have the capital back then. And so we brought in a buyer for us to play. And we basically played middleman, right? And so I'm trying to remember all the details of that. But I'll just tell you this, that I think it was probably maybe 9 months later, a year later, as the buyer / us, because we were kind of like a straw buyer, right? In a way, I know we made around $1 million. I can't remember if we made a little less than $1 million or we made a little more than $1 million. And we had no money into the deal except for a bunch of sweat equity, a bunch of time. So we had a big hit, right? Like it's just call it $1 million we made on our first deal. And now I don't think is a fair expectation to set.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting lucky. It's all right.
Yeah. I mean, today we won't even look at deals unless we make at least $1 million. But yeah, I was very fortunate, right? I mean, life-changing to see that type of money in your hands or in your bank account. Or like, there's a student of mine that went through my VestRight course that recently brought me a deal. And I had the privilege the other day, he brought me a ready, willing seller because we focus on off market. So we ran the whole thing, we sold it, we capitalized it, and then I cut him in on the profits. And I had, the guy's a full-time employee at his church, moved here 7 years ago with just a few $100. I think it was like $700 in his name. And, I had the privilege, a handful of months ago to hand him a check for over $600,000, and it changed his life. It's a moment he'll never forget. And so it's really neat when you ask me about my first deal over 20 years ago, and then to see that I had the opportunity where I'm now having the opportunity to hand those same types of checks to students / partners, it's just really fulfilling, man. It's I have a shirt on right now, PIF, that's my personal slogan, purpose, impact, fulfillment. And it's just really cool. It's just, fulfillment's where it's at, man. At the end of the day, fulfillment's where it's at.
No, I hear you. And that's what drives me, with our deal room coaching. It's like, I just love seeing those success stories. I love seeing people close a deal, change their life, build millions of dollars in equity down the road. And they're not just clawing at making a living with really no end in sight. And so
sure,
it's just, we have to do something that matters, and, helping other people that are willing to help themselves, of course, but it's incredibly fulfilling. So this deal, or let's just pick a random deal. So you're finding off market stuff, and you're approaching the seller, and I assume it's somewhat like wholesaling, like you're trying to find that needle in the haystack of something that has potential, and you put it under contract with a long due diligence period, and you're trying to value add the land. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'll just give you a hard time. So I absolutely hate the word wholesaling. And I'll tell you the reason I hate the word wholesaling is because we pride ourselves on paying people what their property is worth.
Okay.
The meat and potatoes of wholesaling is find a desperate, motivated seller, buy something below market, tie it up below market, flip it, and make a few quick bucks by paying the seller something less than what their asset was worth, right? Like that's the gist of wholesaling. And so for us, same thing though, we do from a standpoint where we are similar to wholesaling, is the house wholesalers are the best off-market prospectors in the world. Pure and simple, they're the best at off-market prospecting, they just are. And so we do that same thing, right? Like we figure out how to find the properties, and we cold call and mailer and text, whatever, right? And the reason I think that's so important is that for those of you that sit around and wait for a real estate agent to call you, right, and they tell you they got some pocket listing, first of all, I'll tell you something. they called you and 40 other people, or they emailed you and 40 other people, just to be clear. Or you sit around, you watch the MLS, something to be listed. Like, understand you're always going to be in a competitive environment if that's how you receive deal flow.
Yeah.
Secondly, is you're not in control of your own deal flow, right? And without deal flow, you have nothing, right? And so we just are a big believer, why would we not be in control of our own deal flow? And so I don't care if you're a multifamily syndicator doing value add. I don't care if you're I don't care what asset class you're in. Off-market prospecting is how you control your own deal flow. But where our niche is really unique is, there's guys out there teaching how to go and tie up land and flip it and make a few bucks, right? Like rural land or whatever. The reason our model is a value add model is because we don't prospect any land that doesn't have development potential. Because the reason it's value add, or the way that we bring value to the deal, is that we take it from a raw piece of land to an approved development. Okay, we take it through that entitlement or that governmental approval process, okay? And then we either exit at approvals to one of our clients, or we'll go develop it if we decide to, or we'll go vertical even if we decide to. But the value, or the reason we make the type of money we make, is because of how much value we bring to our buyers or to the asset by running that approval process. There's a ton of value there, okay?
Oh, yeah, that's not easy. I mean...
Yeah, so the way our contracts are structured is that we go tie up a piece and we'll have a 90 to 120-day due diligence, but we usually don't close until 12 months or so, give or take, after our due diligence, okay? So our standard deal, I'll just say is 12 to 15 months from the time we tie it up. And our contract is written in a way where we usually have the property controlled for about 21 months. So I'll just ask you the question without you even asking us. And now people say, well, Cody, how do you get a seller to allow you to have them tied up that long? Okay. Well, here's how I'll tell you I tie up a seller for that long. Let's just use a real simple example. Let's say I go and I'm going to buy a 20-acre piece, right? And let's just say it's farmland or ag land. Let's just use easy numbers. Let's just say it's worth $10,000 an acre, okay? As is, just as farmland or ag land, right? So that means that property's worth $200,000.
Yep.
Okay? But if you will give me the time to get it through the governmental approval process, I might pay you 5 or 10 times that. So I might pay you, let's just use the lower number of 5x, 5 times. So I might pay you $1 million for it instead of $200,000. So when you say why, someone will say, well, how do you get a seller to wait that long? Well, it's really simple. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, would you like me to pay you $200,000 now and put this piece into my land bank division? Or would you let me pay you $1 million in a year after I get the thing approved? Can I tell you, in 21 years, I've never had one seller say, I'll take the 200 now. Okay.
Right.
And so not only are we not really paying market value, we're paying above market value, but you got to give me my terms. Does that make sense?
No, I love it because the seller, you're letting them in on what you're doing. They don't feel tricked. They're getting to participate in the upside. And if you win, they win. And are they going to win the whole pie? No, but they don't know how to or want to go through 2 years of entitlements. So I love that idea. And I mean, we do the same thing sometimes with seller financing, where if they give us great terms, we can pay more. We can pay more than market value.
Yeah.
Because I hear that a lot. Like, if I'm going to give you $1 million cash today, or I'm going to give you $1 million seller financing, well, they're going to take the cash, of course. But if I can pay $1 million today, but I can pay you 1.3 or 1.5 million if you give me terms, well, there's a large demographic that's going to take that deal because they can get an extra $500,000. Why would they not take that deal?
Absolutely. That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So how much does it take to tie up the land? Like if you're coming to me and saying, I want to tie up your 20 acres, are you putting a deposit down, earnest money down, or what are you doing there?
Yeah, another good question. So I'll just tell you, on average, our earnest money is usually around 3%. So if I'm buying something for, say, like I just looked at our average transaction right now, and our average transaction today is in our pipeline deals that we're working on. Our average transaction is 4.7 million purchase, okay? And understand, when I started doing this 21 years ago, today, my average project's probably 200 lots, right? And we really don't look at anything less than 100 lots. And because we specialize in single family, but understand the entitlement approval process that we teach called land use, it's 90% the same no matter what the asset class is. So I could easily go do a storage deal, a multifamily deal, whatever, okay? But we specialize in single family. It's just our bread and butter. And so, today we do big deal, these bigger deals. But I mean, when I got going, man, I was doing projects that were 2, 3, 4 lot. I just want to make that clear. But today our average transaction's 4.7 million. And we'll usually do about 3% earnest money. So on that deal, I would do about 141 grand earnest money, right? If the deal was a $100,000 deal.
3% on the future valuation, not the today value.
3% on whatever the purchase price is that I'm paying to the seller, okay? So my average deal right now, I'm buying for 4.7 million, right? So that's 141,000 earnest money. And we'll usually do that in 3 payments. We'll do one payment after our due diligence. We'll do one payment, about 90 days after that. And then we'll do another payment about 90 days after that is basically what we do, right? So usually they would have all the earnest money sitting in escrow, non-refundable within, say, 9-10 months of the deal going under contract. The first payment of the first 1% going in 90 to 120 days after execution, which is the end of our due diligence. All of our earnest money is non-refundable. The only way we get it back is if the seller defaults, right? And I'll tell you, based upon how my contract's written, I've never had a seller ever default. Every seller has always performed and showed up to closing because there's just too much repercussion for them if they do default.
So if I'm the seller, worst case scenario, my land's tied up for 90 days and you walk, I get nothing.
Yep.
Or I make, 150 grand and it never closes. I got my land back and I wasted 2 years, but it's raw land anyways. So, okay.
Yeah. If I get it approved and I don't close, you still have an approved subdivision. So now your land is worth way more because I got it approved, because the approval goes with the property.
Gotcha.
Right? So, and where people understand is that, just my due diligence, I mean, you can get due diligence done for a lot less than this, but because of the size of my deals, I probably spend an average of 20, 30, 40 grand on my due diligence. Well, don't be wrong, you could probably get it done for 5 grand, but just with how we run our business, they understand we're spending money to try to make their property worth what we're offering them.
Right.
Or worst case scenario, I'll just pay you as is, but it's your choice. Do you want the 200 now, or do you want the $1 million after I take it through this process?
Gotcha. And is your end buyer, are they involved in this process? Are they chipping in? Are they putting any EMD down to offset some of your EMD?
So that's a good question. So I have a fund, right? So we're well capitalized, but I mean, there's been times where we use friends and family for many, many years, right? One of our ninja moves that we teach in our course is that, I mean, we have students doing this, is where your buyer actually is your capital partner, right? And so they're cash flowing the entitlements for you. And we have numerous students doing that right now. But, there's many ways to capitalize these deals. And yes, our buyers have earnest money in the deal, okay? And on average, what we try to do is my total capital outlay is my goal is that my buyer's earnest money, if my buyer walks, at least at minimum covers all my capital into the deal. In some cases, it's 4X, right? So even if my buyer walks, my fund still 4X's its money, and I still control the deal.
Gotcha. So this would be if let's say a year down the road, economy's turning, the home developer doesn't want to buy the land anymore. You've written your agreement with him so that he's paying roughly $600,000 or $800,000, so you can still cover your costs and make some money, possibly.
Yeah, and then we still control the property too, right? So if the market took a turn, I can renegotiate the terms on the land purchase, right? I can get a price reduction, or worst case scenario, I walk and I still made money.
Gotcha.
Now, that's the conservative way to do it, and a lot of times we do it that way. But there's other times where we wait to sell it, right? Because like right now, it's not in my best interest right now to sell a deal because there's too many unknowns in the marketplace, right? There's too many emotions in the marketplace. So, and I believe 24 is going to be a great year. And I think the Feds are going to stop raising rates in second quarter. And I think the last half of 23, the market's going to normalize because people are going to adapt to the new reality. but they can't adapt to the new reality until the Fed stop raising rates. Okay. So, but I think 24, the housing shortage is going to expose itself, and my company is going to do very, very, very well in 24. But right now in 23, we're focused on the one word, and that's gathering. We're gathering great talent for our team, because middle of 20 to 22, it was hard to get talent, right? And then we're gathering great projects, because the beauty thing with our business model is we don't have to close anything right now. See, once you close on something and you take title, most of your options are gone. You are fully exposed. And so because we don't close, we can do price reductions, we can push out closing, we can walk, we can do all kinds of things that once you take title, you can't do. And so right now, we're just trying to pick up as many deals as we can, because by the time that I have it approved and it's time for me to close, we believe the market's going to be on fire.
Gotcha.
In a good way. Yeah.
So this entitlement process, I hear horror stories. I have a friend up in Charlotte that does similar to what you're doing, ties up raw land, entitles it, sells it off to another company that's going to build townhomes, or they're going to build self-storage or whatever. And it isn't always so easy to push it through all these committees and get everything approved. And can they get the max amount of lots that they need to make the deal make sense? So, and that's also, it seems like it's probably pretty talent intensive, right? You have to have people that maybe have relationships with those local government people. How do you do that? How do you overcome that?
So I tell your buddy to go take my course. But I'll start with this. The biggest mistake, like there's a good chance your buddy, and I don't know your buddy, so we're just using him as an example here, okay? There's a good chance, because most people are this way. They see the jurisdiction as the enemy. And you got to switch that mentality. You got to see the jurisdiction as your partner. Okay?
Okay.
And what you got to figure out how to do is how to create a win-win, where the jurisdiction wins and you win. Okay? And I'll give you a little insight. The biggest way to allow a jurisdiction to win is to fall on swords for them on whatever the hot topic is that the public is looking at. Okay? Because they're elected officials for the most part, and they want to look good to the public. Okay, so what you do is you fall on the sword and you give them what they want publicly so that they look good to the public. And then the other 95 points of the deal that no one's paying attention to is where you win. Okay? I will tell you this, knock on wood, thank the Lord. In 21 years, I've never not got a deal approved. I've never had a deal denied. Okay, I've always gotten approval. Okay?
That's a pretty strong track record.
But it's a mindset, it's a mentality, right? Like, you got to go into these jurisdictions with a win-win mentality. You got to go in seeing them as your partner, not as your enemy. You got to go in understanding that they need to look good to the public. You got to go in with a creative mindset that, okay, I'm going to let them win here, and then I'm going to win over here so that overall the deal works. It doesn't. And here's the beautiful thing about the model is, see, I have a headquarters in Dallas, but yet I'm doing deals, working on deals in 13 states, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have one office. The key is, see, our consultants, our civil engineers and all that, they do 90% of the work, okay? They're our boots on the ground. And so the best advice I could ever, give your buddy, make sure you're using the best civil engineer firm in wherever you're doing deals. Make sure your civil engineering firm has a relationship with that jurisdiction. Make sure they know how that jurisdiction thinks and how they act, and allow them to carry the weight. All right. Now, they're not going to have a creative bone for the most part. And so be creative enough, be open-minded enough that when the jurisdiction, how many times I've done things for jurisdictions that legally I didn't even have to do because they were forcing their feelings or their opinions on me versus what the law is or how their code reads. But dude, you got to pick your battles. Who cares?
Right.
If you can fall on the sword for them and do what they want, right, as your partner, and then you can win over here on these other areas in the shadow that no one's paying attention to. It's totally just a mentality. So that's my 2 cents on that, bro. It's mindset. It's perspective.
Gotcha. Now, do you go to municipalities ahead of time, maybe before you've identified a piece of land, and ask them, where do you want to see growth? Where do you want to see development?
Absolutely.
How can we help you? Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that would make it a lot easier too. That now they're really on your team.
Or like, we run this all the time. Like, dude, you got to pick your battles. You have some piece that a realtor brought you or that was listed, and because you're not in control of your own deal flow, that deal means a lot to you, right? And so what you try to do is force a square peg through a round hole. It's a piece that's zoned for whatever, and you want them to rezone it because of something you want to do with it, right? Well, what you want to do with it, no one cares what you want to do with it, okay? What does the jurisdiction want to see go there, right? And just pick your battles, man. Why fight that current? So does that make any sense?
Absolutely. So, all right, let's shift gears. Let's say that I live in South Carolina or Ohio or wherever I live, and I'm like, man, I like what Cody's saying. I sign up for your program. Now, is it sort of like we're just going to teach you what we do and you do with it what you want? Or is it a program where you're creating an army of people to find you off-market deals and you'll pick and choose ones that you want to partner with? How does that work?
Great question. So I'm going to go back to my shirt for a second. So PIF, Purpose, Impact, Fulfillment. The reason I started VestRight, the education company, in 2019, it's because I'm a believer that we're all searching for fulfillment, whether we know it or not, okay? I don't even like the word happy. I think the word happy is a joke. Happy is temporary. Fulfillment is real, right? And I could have a really bad day but still be fulfilled, okay? And I don't think fulfillment is possible without having a positive impact, okay? Like, you've got to be making a positive impact in the world. And so the quickest shortcut to impact is figure out a purpose you can serve, right? And so I started VestRight because this model I do that I know of, I'm the only one teaching it, right? And so that's how VestRight was born, is I truly just wanted to make a difference, right? Because I wanted fulfillment. I wanted it to be a part of my legacy. And so I created this course, 8-week course, online login, homework, video, the whole deal, right? And it's a phenomenal course. Like, our refund rate or chargeback rate, doesn't even exist, right? Like, we just over deliver on value. Well, what happened is I kept getting people asking me, well, first of all, let me tell you this. My peers tell me how brilliant I am because holy moly, Cody, you went and started VestRight and now you have land acquisition people all over the country bringing you deals. Let me just humble myself and tell you that was not the initial plan. The initial plan was just PIF. But what then happened is students kept asking over and over and over again if they could partner with me. And so we finally created a system or a process to where they can go do it on their own if they want. They can partner with us if they want. They can partner with us on their first couple deals if they want, and then go do it on their own, like whatever it is they want to do. And so, but the moral of the story is we have a program now set up where if they want to partner with us on their first couple deals, or all they want to do is just partner with us on everything, and they just want to be dirt dogs, and just go find dirt, then they just bring us a ready, willing seller, tee up the deal. My team comes in, negotiates the purchase. We run the entitlements, the approval process. We sell it. We capitalize the whole thing, and then we cut the student or the graduate in on the profits, right? But if you just want to go do it all on your own, because I have students that are doing it all on their own too, and their lives have changed forever. For us, it don't matter. Whatever you want to do, we're cool with. But it all goes back to because of the reason we started VestRight in the first place.
Right. And so if a student chooses to work with you, what is that split?
Let's go back to my first 18 years of my career, literally, friends and family, okay? It was just old school, right? We've all heard it. The money gets half the deal and the sweat equity gets half the deal, right? Or maybe like apartment syndicating, the operator gets like 20 or 30% of the deal, the sweat equity, and the money gets 70 or 80% of the deal. So I worked out of that 50-50 split forever. And so what we do is we give our students 10% of the deal for just bringing us a ready, willing seller, okay?
Okay.
They don't have to get it under contract or nothing. If they get it under contract, we give them 15% of the deal. Unless I got to completely redo the whole contract because they did it wrong. But then what happens is not only do they not have to capitalize it, but they don't have to do any of the sweat equity either because we negotiate the purchase, we sell it, we run it, and we capitalize it. And so that's how we do it. So like that student that I wrote that check for over $600,000, he actually had that piece under contract. And so he got 15% of the deal.
Gotcha. And when you say capitalize it, you're talking about the due diligence costs, the E&D money.
Yeah, the earnest money, the due diligence, and the entitlement costs. Yep, we capitalize that whole thing. Now, and there are certain students, though, where they're doing deals that just aren't big enough for Allied, right? Because we don't really look at anything less than 100 lots. Sometimes they'll go take it out to another guy like me that does smaller deals.
And The way that I got into multifamily was, I took a course and then I went to a networking group, and it was kind of the same way where there was the large syndicator and it was like, bring me deals and I'll partner with you. And I've been in this position too with the deal room. Like, I get a lot of deal flow from my students and the people in my group. But however, it can be like finding a needle in a haystack. Those guys are so picky with what they'll close and what they'll put under contract and dedicate their resources to. It got super frustrating for me. And I didn't want to build my mentoring program that way. I will partner with students, and I do, but I don't, that's not a major piece of my deal, because I'm not sure if I want to partner with them, or maybe I just put something under contract. I only have so much bandwidth. And I think that what we do might be a little bit more intensive, right? Because we're trying to raise capital, get loans, close deals. We're taking title, we're renovating. It's a much more involved process probably. So I guess, like, how difficult is the criteria for you to be like, yeah, Jennings, let's do a deal together. I like the deal you found. It fits our training and what we told you to find. Or is it like you're only taking 1% of the stuff that's getting submitted to you?
Well, I would say once the student gets enough reps under their belt of exercising what we taught them at VestRight, that percentage grows substantially. But in the beginning, we're turning down most of the deals they're sending to us because they're still learning the material, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of good for them, because when we turn a deal down, we let them know why we're turning it down. And so they're kind of wasting my team's time, but it's here again, all part of our PIF. So every deal we turn down, the students get more and more educated why we turned it down.
We do the same thing. We do a live Tuesday underwriting call where students submit deals, and we kind of tear them apart sometimes. It's like, hey, look, you're all in for more than your cost. What you can sell it for in 4 years. Like, why would you do this deal? You've either got to get a price reduction, you've got to get seller carryback, you've got to do something, because this deal at this price is just not a deal. And we see that new students bringing a lot of stuff that's just really not viable. And then after they've been in 3, 4, 5 months, all of a sudden the quality of what they're bringing, because they know we're going to say no to that, but then we see a diamond in the rough, and now we're getting more and more deal flow out of that.
Yeah, exactly the same thing.
Yeah, no, I get that. So on a $4.7 million average deal, that's the tie-up price. What's the end user paying for that? What's DR Horton or whoever's your end buyer paying for these things?
So let's just do some quick math. So that deal, it's probably 2. That's probably 3. That's probably 3. That's
well, $600,000 was 15%. That's $4.5 million, right?
Let's say that's 5 point. I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm probably selling that deal after entitled, approved, with all my costs in it and sweat equity. I'm probably selling that deal for $8 million, $8.5 million.
Okay. Wow. So amazing. Yeah. Almost 100% profit margin.
Well, but I have additional basis because of my overhead and because of all my costs to get it approved, right?
Either way, that's a pretty solid
it's a lot
margin.
of upside. It's huge. That's what I'm saying. We're in the value add business, brother, right? Like, there's a lot of value there. Like, we even have our clients at this point, some of our big name guys that if I said who they were, you'd know them. They're now bringing us deals for us to go put it under contract, get it approved, and then bring it back to them approved. That's how much value they find in it.
Wow. And so the fund is not the end buyer. The fund is funding the operational costs and the EMD costs and just the cash to keep the machine running. Is that right?
All the project costs, earnest money, overhead. Yep.
And so the fund investors are participating in the profit, or is it a debt fund, or how is that fund structured?
No, it's an equity fund. So they get a pref, a preferred return, and then a split after that.
They get a split of the total performance of because their money's in multiple deals, right?
Yeah. So they get a pref on their money, an annual pref, right? Preferred return, and then they get a split after that. And our pref is much healthier than any syndicators could ever be. I'll just tell you, our current fund's at a 20 pref.
So it's a 20 pref, and is that paid on the back end, or is that paid current?
It's paid on each disposition.
Okay, so it accrues. So the 20 pref accrues, and then what sort of split do they get on the deal?
90-10. So 90 to us, 10 to the investor.
Okay, so 10%. So, but you're giving them a 20 pref. Like, it's amazing.
The whole deal, right? Like, everybody and their mom is an apartment syndicator. Nothing against anybody, but everybody is, right? And storage and blah blah blah. And so I was like, well, how do I compete with these guys? Because my margins are so much higher than theirs. There's no way I'm giving 70, 80% to a split on those types of margins. So how do I compete with these guys? And I was like, screw it. I'm just going to have my pref outperform their whole deal. And so, because the average syndicator, you're promising an IRR of somewhere between 13 and 17% or something, or 19, And so I was like, screw it. I'm just going to have my pref outperform their whole deal.
Right.
So that's how I did it.
No, we've structured some apartment deals where they're really a phenomenal deal. And we've done a 10 pref and we've only given away 20 or 30% of the equity of the deal. And so we pay a higher pref, but we don't give away as much equity. And there's a lot of people they're good with that. It's like, hey, I get 10% of my money and I get a piece of the upside. Great.
Yeah.
And so I think it works. And when you stack up a 10 pref with 30% equity versus a 6 pref or no pref and 80% equity on a mediocre deal, and then a deal that's that tight, what does the syndicator do when they get in trouble, right? So I don't structure any of my deals where I give away 70, 80% because I'm like, if I got to give away that much, it's really probably not that good of a deal.
I love the way you said that. That's good, man. That's right.
Is this 506 B or C? What type of fund is it?
Man, I can't. I'd be lying if I'm so far out of the trenches, man. I'm on the board. My whole team does all that. I can't remember if we're a B or a C. We're getting ready to launch our next fund, and the only problem with that 20 pref is that I'll just tell you, when we launched our first fund, I did a webinar with 172 people on it, and we fully subscribed in 3.5 hours. I'm getting ready to do my next fund, but the only feedback I've gotten from kind of guys that have been around the block is the 20 pref sounds too good to be true, or like it sounds shady. And the last thing I want Deal to do is be questioning whether we're shady or not. And so this next fund we're doing is we're going to do a 10 pref instead, but then we're going to raise the split to 15 to the investor. And actually at a 10 pref plus a 15 split versus a 20 pref with a 10 split, our analysis is showing that the investors will actually do a little bit better with the 10 and a 15 split than a 20 pref with a 10 split.
I get you. We bought a pet company, an online pet company, and it was a phenomenal deal. Got it at a really low multiple. The cash flow on it was phenomenal, but we couldn't get bank financing. We had to raise the whole purchase price. And so we offered a 25% preferred return with no equity, or a 6 pref with an equity upside. And it was a lot of people, it's just too good to be true. A 25 pref, but in businesses, active businesses, and in the right vehicle, it's very doable. I mean, if you're tying stuff up or you're all in for $4.5 million and you're selling it for $8 million, you can afford a 20 pref.
Right. Yeah. So it's just funny. Optics is a funny thing. And so, yes, I can do it all day long. Whether I like it or not, I've got to pay attention to optics, right? Yeah, it's cool. It's exciting. I'm glad I started our first fund over a year ago, and it's been neat to get our investors a great return. And also it's going to allow our company to go accomplish our vision, to be able to scale the way we want to, right? Is that we ran on my capital and friends and family capital for way, way too long.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. Well, hey, Cody, man, this has been super enlightening. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are listening that are excited. So if they are excited and they are like, I got to connect with Cody, I have written down here, VestRight.com/unlock. Yep. And if they go to VestRight.com/unlock, what are you going to give them?
So this is something my team had us put together. It's just because our model is unique. It's a niche. No one's heard of it. They want to, it's hard for them to get their arms around it just in a conversation like this, right? So we just created a pretty phenomenal free ebook that they'll get there. And I can't make guarantees. I wish I could, but I would be absolutely amazed after they go through that if they didn't get some amazing nuggets and if they didn't grow in their knowledge. Because remember, if you understand what I do, if you understand raw land with development potential, you understand entitlements, utilities, zoning, density, all that, that serves you no matter what you do in real estate. And so here's the deal. I told Grant Cardone, I was talking to him the other day, I said, hey, here's the deal. See, I have an advantage over you, right? Because we go after the same deal, I might see opportunity you don't, because I understand this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, just go there, go through that book. I'd be amazed if you don't get value out of it. And it just really helps explain our niche just a whole lot better. And there's case studies and whatnot.
I got to stop you because I want the listeners to stop and hear that he's seeing opportunity that others are passing up because he has a skill set that others don't. And I preach this. The foundation of what we do is analysis and underwriting. If you don't understand where the opportunity is, you can't capitalize on it. And if you don't have all the tools with how to creatively finance stuff, how to pay more than your competitors, how to find off-market deals, how to make these connections, you're going to walk right over acres of diamonds. And it's stacking skills is the best investment that we can make. And that's why I invest in education, masterminds, because I want that insider knowledge because I know that it's going to pay me down the road. So I love that you just said that.
100%, bro. There's a reason why I'm still in plenty of masterminds today, right? 100%.
Absolutely. All right, well, Cody, so VestRight.com/unlock is the best place to reach Cody, and we'll have your social links on there as well. But thank you for joining us, man. It's been an awesome call and very enlightening.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Cody. Guys, that's all we got for today. I appreciate you tuning in, and don't forget to unlock your life.
This is the podcastfactory.com.